Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wellness Wednesday. I hope you are all doing good. I'm very excited today because I have my guest Nadia with me. Wave, say hello, Nadia. Nadia is with Sacred Medicine. Is it church? Sacred Medicine Church? Is it referred to
Sacred Heart Medicine
Sacred
Sanctuary.
Heart Medicine. There we go. Sacred Heart Medicine. And I'm very happy to have her here. I'm just now meeting Nadia for the first time, but I know Nadia through my brother, Henry Fields. A lot of you have met him, and when he's been on my channel, most recently this past Christmas, Henry is one of the facilitators at Nadia's church. So, welcome, Nadia. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. But before we dive in, I just want to say hi to a few people here. I see Melinda from False Teeth Real Tarot. Hey, Melinda, and Sharon Sipe. Hey, Manasa. Good to see you. Tarot Living with Manasa. Happy to see you. And of course, my big bro, Ron. Hello, hello, hello. And I'm sure some other people will be joining us shortly. But Nadia, why don't you just share a little bit about yourself? And I know our whole objective here, we're going to talk about psilocybin ceremonies and how you got into that. Just tell us, who is Nadia? Who is Nadia?
So many things. I am the founder of Sacred Heart. I started the organization several years ago. I'm a mother of two, a paralegal in my past life. I don't know, just on the spiritual path and hoping to meet as many people as I can along the way.
I love that. And maybe you can just start off by telling us a little bit about shamanism, because I know so many people have different ideas of what it is and what it is to you, and what led you there?
Whew. So shamanism. I don't think that there is one definition for shamanism. It is something that comes from all over the world. You know, Michael Harner had an institute. I think there still is an institute where he teaches people the core shamanic practices, which include extraction, soul retrieval, journeying, and divination. I work with all of those things. Shamanism, I'll tell you what it is to me. It is connecting to the spirit world. So my guides, my animals, my plants, the other side. It's doing work on the other side and being connected to the other side. So I do a lot of that, both personally and professionally. To me, a shaman is a person who enters the other side to facilitate healing to somebody who lives on this side. So it's bringing healing to the community and to individuals. And rebalancing is a big one. Rebalancing energies on this earth, energies within a person, and everything in between.
Mm-hmm.
How I got started was actually because of my own mental illness. I really struggled with depression, anxiety. I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, and I had addiction issues, alcoholism, many things. Actually brought me to sit in ceremony with ayahuasca several years ago because I had reached the end of my rope. And sitting in that ceremony was the first initiation of many for me. It was very clear that I was supposed to work with plant medicine right off the bat. And I quit my job and dove headfirst into a shamanic practice and medicine work after that happened. So I just kept going, and here we are now.
That's beautiful. I know that's one of the reasons too. I really wanted to have you on to share with everyone a little bit more about plant medicine, because it has been such a profound experience in my life and what it's doing in my life, as I still do practice plant medicine. And if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about, so I have also participated in the mushroom ceremonies. I've done ayahuasca, bufo, and each one, I have to say to everyone, for me, has had completely different experiences and very profound experiences, and they've changed and done amazing healing in my life. So, if you want to talk a little bit about the differences between the two and what led you to start your church, and talk about how you have the first above ground church to do this work. I think that is incredible.
Yeah, I think it's incredible too. I'm really proud of myself. It's been a really hard journey to get here. So, I initially started off with ayahuasca. I had an incredibly traumatic experience with ayahuasca because I drank it with many people. I think it was 50 or 60 people, and there was no shaman.
Oh.
And in that experience was, as I said, that was when I was initiated. That I picked up the container in that space, and they were like, this is who you are, this is what you do. And then my psyche broke. So I continued to work with ayahuasca on and off, and had the opportunity to work with a Shipibo maestro for some time, learning indigenous Shipibo plant medicine. So Shipibo people are the keepers of ayahuasca from Peru. I believe they are based out of Iquitos. And he was coming up to Florida to do ceremony. Somebody asked me to facilitate, and the connection was made. So what I gathered was he was actually bringing the teachings to us because he knew they were dying off where they are. And it was being passed on primarily, as I look back now, I see, to women who live in the United States, who work with the West people of the West, the Westerners. So in my experience, ayahuasca it's a very deep medicine. It's a very powerful medicine. It takes a special kind of person who can hold that space and work in that space. And I was actually asked by the medicine to stop working in that space for a time. She told me that she wanted to come through the mushroom doorway and work with me that way. And, to me, the plant medicine, they're all just different doorways that lead to the same place. So the vehicle that gets you there is a little different. It works a little differently in the body. The journey itself is different as a result because it's a different vehicle. And so when she asked me to switch over to mushrooms completely, my ego was very bruised because I loved telling people that I work with ayahuasca. There's so much ego attached to ayahuasca. And so I went on that path, and I started working with the mushrooms exclusively, and found that for me, it was exactly the same as working with ayahuasca. And so I find with the people I work with, mushrooms are a much more gentle, easily assimilated medicine to work with, so they're easier on our physical body. And as Westerners, we have a lot more trauma from being cut off of our bloodlines, our ancestral lines, the childhood trauma, the food trauma, like the media, you name it. It's a very different level of trauma than people in the Amazon have. So mushrooms are needed for that gentler approach. And so that's been my experience of why I was supposed to start with mushrooms. It so happened that just 2 months ago, ayahuasca came back and said, I'm ready to come back in for you. So yeah, that was a long story.
No, that was fantastic. And when did you start your church? When did it open its doors?
I did the paperwork. It wasn't that long ago. Maybe 2 years ago is when the paperwork shuffle started. I've been practicing for longer than that, but I really had this groundbreaking moment when I was living in Florida about 2.5 years ago. The medicine was like, you can stay here and you can help people, or you can help more people, but it's going to be hard. And they gave me the choice. I could stay working on my couch, sitting one-on-one in ceremony with people, or I could build a community and do something more. And so we opted to do that.
That's fantastic. I noticed that, it's becoming more talk about plant medicines. Before in the so I've been working now about 3 years working with plant medicines, and I've noticed, like, in the beginning when I first started, it was very like hush hush and kind of kept under, and for some it's still that way, but I've noticed now that it's becoming more outspoken. More people are like asking questions, and when I have conversations with people, they're like, "Oh my God, you do that? Where can I find out more information?" And so I think people are realizing that these medicines are really for healing. This is not a thing of just, oh, I want to trip and get high and do all this stuff. It's not about that. It's more of a spiritual awakening. It's a spiritual journey, and that like really true profound healing can happen through this. Oh, oh, there we go. You froze there for a second. You hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. I wanted to make sure you froze there for a second. So I want to make sure that you can still help me. So, would you say that you've noticed that difference over these past years, or maybe even longer than that? What has been your experience and what you're seeing today with the medicines?
So I can tell you that 95% of people who come work with me have no experience, which means there is an opening. I'd say Poland's book was the big trigger to how to change your mind. And then it just opened up further from there.
That's awesome. And guys, I want to let you know, if you have any questions, please go ahead and post them. As I see Anna Banana has one here. And she's asking, are all mushrooms the same? As if you are allergic to mushrooms, is there a safe way to do them? Oh, good question.
That is a great question. I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't, if there's an allergy to mushrooms, I wouldn't work with them. Instead, I would work with a different plant medicine. The carrier of the medicine, as in the person who facilitates, is really going to be the key there. So you want to work with a mushroom shaman or someone who has a lot of experience with mushrooms, who can carry the mushroom spirit through a more intense medicine like ayahuasca.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good question, Anna Banana. Oh, am I the one that's freezing? Oh, thank you for letting me know that. Oh, okay. Oh, geez. Well, going with the flow, guys.
It's all good.
What was one of my other things I wanted to do? When someone comes to you, how do you determine, so someone that's new to plant medicine and they ask you, what would be the best one for me? How do you determine what is the best plant ally for someone?
It's usually done through a fairly short consultation process. I sit down and talk to someone, they tell me what's going on. I have the opportunity to really see and feel their energy. Because my specialty is working with plants, a lot of times I'll be able to identify which ones would be best for a person, depending on like spiritually what's going on with them. So sometimes my guides give me very clear answers. Sometimes it's a gut feeling. Yeah, and it's usually pretty easy. I will say that I can only direct people to things that I have experience with energetically, right? So I have a lot of experience with ayahuasca and with mushrooms, and peyote or wachuma, I just have the essence of it, or MDMA. Like I have the essence of that medicine, and I kind of view things like frequencies. So if your frequency is at number 1, and I know that wachuma is at a number 3, and number 3 will balance your level 1, I'll tell you, okay, this is the best to rebalance for you.
Oh, okay. That's really cool. I like that. Teresa is asking, is ketamine the same as psilocybin?
It is not. So ketamine is a very intense psychedelic. I actually get a lot of people who come to work with me who have gone through ketamine treatments, and they are often re-traumatized through ketamine. I'm not sure why this is. I have no experience with ketamine, but psilocybin is a mushroom. Mushrooms are organic. So we're working with a plant spirit. We're not just working with a substance. Ketamine is not organic, as I understand it. It's a straight synthetic substance.
Okay. Well, that would definitely make a big difference right there. Yeah. Yes, we didn't say, well, it's Sacred Heart Medicine, but where is your church located, Nadia?
Currently, we only have one location. It's in Vancouver, Washington, but we do some traveling. So we go to Florida about once a year, and Connecticut about every other year. So we move.
It's very cool. Welcome everyone who's just now joining. And this is Nadia with Sacred Heart Medicine. We're talking about psilocybin ceremonies and how it pertains to spiritual healing. So Thank you for joining us. And I had to laugh. Where was it? A little earlier. Debsy. Debsy has a little bit of a crush on my brother. So she's like, did I hear Henry? Where?
Understood. Henry is a fox.
Henry's not here today, Debsy. I'm sorry. Let me see here. Hey, Joey. Thanks for joining. Nice to see you. And Kevin's loving vibrations. Hello, hello. Hey, Jay, little bro. And I saw that Lisa came in too. She's lurking. So any new subscribers, welcome. Hey, Katie, Moonchild. So Katie says that she loves doing ceremonies. That's awesome. I'm actually curious, and only if those that want to share, if you have done a ceremony in before, if you wouldn't mind putting it in the chat. I'm just curious to see, or if you're interested, maybe you haven't. It might be something of interest. Just curious to see how many people have done ceremony or would like to do a ceremony. So Teresa says, when is the next time you're in Connecticut? I'm looking for treatments for my daughter.
I don't believe we're going to be going down there this year. It will likely be next year. This is a great opportunity to talk about parent-child dynamics, though, and with regards to ceremonies. When I work with, we'll say, like a family dynamic, a lot of people have, the desire to support their teenagers or sometimes their young adult children. And in most cases, I actually recommend that the parents sit in ceremony first before I work with a child, because it does help have a better understanding of, what the ceremonies are like and how you can best support them. Yeah, just want to throw that out there.
What is the youngest in age that you work with?
I don't have a set age. Everything is a case-by-case basis, because the screening process is pretty in-depth, we'll call it. I've never worked with anybody under the age of 18. I have found that when I've worked with people who are 18, 19, and 20, they're actually not ready, or they already know, so it's almost kind of a waste in most cases. In general, I find that it's usually other people in the family who need to sit in ceremony, not the one who's having, the crisis, so to speak. And I say that from personal experience as well as professional.
I've always found too, like, I know my daughter has had a curiosity about it. And I think as a parent, I think one of the important things, it's something that you would not want to push your child into. I always say that most people get called to the medicine, that they'll know when it's time or when they really want to do it. So if, I see here a few people are like, saying that they're interested, like Manasa says, I'm interested in a nervous way. It's more of, you'll know when you're ready. You'll know when you're like, okay, I'm gonna push through that fear. This is it. I'm ready to do this. And Anna says she would love to, but she's allergic to mushrooms. But there's other plants, as Nadia mentioned, Anna, that you can, consider doing it as well. Jay says, I've been going to a ceremony where I experienced frog medicine. Oh, that's, what is that? Kambu?
Kembo or Bufo.
Or Bufo, that's true.
Yeah.
For the first time, and it was intense, and I did 2 more times afterwards. That's awesome, Jay. Very cool. Hey, Gina. Yes, thank you. I always forget. Please do remember, hit that thumbs up while you're here and to subscribe. Thank you, Gina. Teresa says, I was thinking of doing it and was told can help with childhood trauma. Yes, it can, Teresa. That was the reason why I went into it. And well, actually, let me take that back. I went into it because I wanted to have an experience. I didn't know my childhood trauma was going to come up. So I went in, and I'm going to go back to that question because someone asked about intentions. I did. I had my list of intentions. Oh, I want to, I don't know what I even said at that time, but I had like this long list. And grandmother Ayahuasca said, Mm-mm. You haven't really dealt with this trauma. And so that's what came up for me. And it was intense, but it truly set me on the path that I am on now. So, yes, it can definitely help. Here it is. Liz has her question. Do you have people set an intention before they take the medicine?
Absolutely. It's all about the intention with this work. Um, Going in without having intention or kind of just allowing whatever to come up it can make it chaotic. It can make it more open and you can get more out of it occasionally. But in most cases, it's best to have a specific intention or a specific thing you want to let go of in the ceremony.
Let me see. Hey, Marsha Green. Oh, look who's here. Hey, little bro. Okay. Manasa's asking, what makes up a ceremony, and is there a liturgy?
I'm not sure what a liturgy is.
Yes, Manasa, I am not either. Can you let us know what liturgy means, please?
Okay.
You got it?
That's a very Christian term, turns out.
Mm.
The way worship is conducted. So in terms of a ceremony is all about intention. It's about container setting. It's about having respect and reverence for the medicine. So we're going in not with the intention to be recreational, to have fun, or to party. We're going in with the intention to meet ourselves, to let go of the things we're ready to let go of, to see the things we need to see. As a facilitator, this is a sacred calling. This is a way of life for us. And when I have people who come sit in ceremony who've maybe done mushrooms 100 times, they'll say, holy shit, this is nothing like my experience with mushrooms, because it's totally different. You can feel the sacredness to it. So it's about my intention. It's also about your intention. And it's about all the things that are done around the appointment, like such as the intention setting and the container setting.
Yeah. And Joey says, I've had spontaneous Kundalini rise when I was 8. I have done some mushrooms for healing. It's not psychotropic, but amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Joey. Kevin says, no judgment at all. This is just me, but I don't like giving up so much control. I don't think if I could do it, I'd be afraid. Wow, that is a key thing. What would you say to someone like Kevin that it's that feeling of like being in the place you surrender?
We all struggle with control to some degree. It's just something that we decide is either worth it for us or not. Do we face that fear? Do we decide to surrender? If you're not ready to give it up, you wouldn't be drawn to doing a ceremony.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is a process. Like it's, and I found, this is just my personal experience, that there were times where I'm like in the middle of it and I'm like, nope, I'm not going to I need the control. And the more I resisted, the more crazier things got. But as soon as I let go, everything fell into place.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an important lesson. That's just the same way it is in life, right? The more we resist to get against things begin to get chaotic. And so it's just like to learn to let go and let spirit lead the way. Just release that control. And it is a process, and to everyone and each in their own time. And like I said earlier, Kevin, if you're not feeling called to it, and then that's fine. It's not for everyone. But I think it's good just to kind of know about it to see if it is something for you. Katie says, I do it to connect with Gaia. It keeps me calm and grounded. That's beautiful, Katie. Hello, Heather. So Heather says, just came in making dinner. Just want to know if it's meant for those of us on mental health medication and diagnosis.
I'd love to answer that question.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the core beliefs behind shamanic practice is that trauma causes splitting of the soul. Your soul never goes anywhere, but it does get split within you and kind of locked away with every trauma that you have. And mental health diagnoses such as anxiety, depression, OCD, personality disorders, those are all symptoms of trauma that has happened to the soul. Some of which are very obvious, sometimes they're not, sometimes it's ancestral, childhood, or adult trauma, but those are things that we address in ceremony. I work with a lot of people who come to this practice because of mental health issues and with no experience in shamanism whatsoever, and find that after sitting in ceremony, everything has changed, that there are pieces of yourself that have returned for the first time, that have been mended for the first time. It's not a magic pill. A lot of times things don't get better right off the bat. Sometimes your depression is number 10 on the list, and number 1 is to eat better, number 2 is to sleep better, number 3 is to move your body. But either way, it gives you more clarity on what's going on and how to move forward.
Yeah, I love that. After dealing with the trauma, did you get to eventually experience what you intended on that night? Not that particular night, no. But I have leading on. It just wasn't my time, those intentions. And I feel like, and I'll let Nadia talk a little bit more about that the medicine knows, like it's very intuitive. And I feel personally that it knows what you need in that moment. So I will set intentions, but I'm also very open to what needs to be shown to me, what needs to be shared. And what would you say to that, Nadia, as well?
I'd say there's a lot of divine timing going on, right? So you have your intention, and it doesn't mean that you're going to get it that night, but it does mean that it's on its way to you. And so again, with those layers, this step 1 has been shown to you. And then everything else falls into its place, and then the intention comes up, and maybe it's 6 months later, maybe it's 2 years later, but it still comes because it's what you asked for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got it. Thank you, Manasa. Yeah, check it out, Kevin. It's all about asking questions and finding out the information. And like I said, you will know. Yeah, Manasa had used that term because she is a former Christian minister.
Actually, 2 of our facilitators are former Mormons. One was a Mormon priest.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many facilitators do you have? I know my baby bro being one of them.
I have 4, not including myself, and 2 apprentices going through, being trained right now.
Very cool. Let's see. Yeah, a couple people sharing that they struggle with giving up control as well. Yeah, Kevin said he doesn't even do pot anymore, that it gives anxiety and gets in his head, and it's hard to give up the control, the self-control.
I actually find that cannabis is a lot harder for me to get in with than psilocybin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're completely too different. All the plants are different.
Totally different.
They're all totally different and provide something different. So yes, like Katie says, you just got to go with the flow. So J-Rock, hey J-Rock, I know many crossing cannabis with mushrooms. Is that counterproductive?
So let me tell you what I see in cannabis as a practitioner of working with mushrooms on a regular basis. Cannabis is its own medicine. It has its place in helping with sleep, with pain. It's like a weighted blanket that you put down to make you feel safe and comfortable. And a lot of people greatly benefit from cannabis. The purpose of mushrooms is to go deep into the roots of things. At least it is when I work with them. And so if you have a weighted blanket on, we're not able to get quite as deep as we want to get. And so I generally ask people to put down cannabis for 2 weeks before ceremony so that the spirit completely leaves your field and doesn't kind of interfere in the ceremony. Cannabis and I also really aren't friends yet, so I don't know much more than that. That's just been my experience so far.
Okay. And I know with ayahuasca too, they don't want you using cannabis or anything like that. There's a dieta that you need to go through anywhere from a week to two. You know, the longer you can go, the better. But it's about clearing out the systems that you really work with the plant. Hello, 8484. Is there any relation to the structure of the overworld to the intent of design in real world temples?
Structure of the room. I'm not really sure that I understand that question.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. 84, can you give a little bit more to that question of what it is that you're looking for on that? Liz says, my neighbors are smoking some very strong medicine at the moment.
You know, good for them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thanks for that, Tracy. Yeah, Tracy says, I do very much respect your work, though, because for some people, like I said earlier, it's not for everyone, and that's okay. It's a calling. It's for those that kind of want to go through it, and it's all good. Katie says, I grow my green medicine. I keep my control over the quality that way.
And it's not just the quality either. When you grow your own plant medicine, you're establishing a relationship with that plant, and the way that it's harvested, the way that it's watered, the way that it's spoken to every day has such a big impact on how it feels in your body and how easily it assimilates with you. That's one of the scary things about psilocybin going so mainstream, is that not only are we going to be using synthetic psilocybin in a lot of places, but who's taking care of these plants and how is it impacting your experience with them?
Good point. James, he says he sat in ceremony with you and had quite the experience, and feel that I healed from a serious childhood trauma, and things continue to fall in place at this time as time passes. Oh, that's awesome.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Joey says, mushrooms is the heart of the forest. Trees communicate through mushrooms. It's a science thing. Let me see here. So, hey, Michelle, my belle. When you do mushrooms, you have the whole forest behind you, whatever that forest may be. Mushrooms even keep dead trees alive in the forest grid. I think you're a mushroom connoisseur, Joey. Lisa says, I've never participated in a plant medicine ceremony. I am curious about it, though. Yeah, there is a lot of curiosity out there. So when you're looking at people, well, let's talk about microdosing and the benefits of microdosing, what that is, and how do people use that in their life?
So I tend to approach microdosing, I'd say, probably a lot different than most people. I don't believe in microdosing the same way we take our pills and supplements. I believe it's important to use that opportunity to cultivate a relationship with the mushroom spirit. So making your microdose days into ceremonies, sitting down with them, asking permission, giving yourself a chance to listen to what they might have to say to you, altering your diet during that time, such as taking out cannabis and alcohol, and then also only doing it for a short period of time, so like 30 to 45 days, because that integration period after the microdose is sometimes more important than the actual microdosing itself. I also don't find that microdosing is for everybody on a spiritual level. It's best for people who have a lot of walls, a lot of constructs. Works really well for like military vets, people who have the kind of trauma that requires them to build up really intense protective structures. And yeah, microdosing is awesome. I actually do community microdosing once every other month through my meetup group.
Oh, very nice. So here, 84 was explaining that it's really related to where I go during a mushroom ceremony, perhaps no, not personal at all. Thank you for sharing that. Just want to make sure that was the question right here. Is there any relation to the structures of the overworld to the intent of design in real world temples, Hindu, Buddhist? So these are the places that 84 goes during
So
ceremony.
I'd say that a lot of that depends on you, your personal journey, and the person that you are sitting with in ceremony. We do have people go to like different temples, like the Temple of Isis comes up a lot with my facilitator, Natalie, where she takes them to this temple somewhere in Egypt, I guess, or wherever Isis energy is now. And they have an experience there. If you need to, we'll say, go to church on some level and you're sitting by yourself, that's where it would take you. I'm still not sure if I have that question right in my mind to answer.
Yeah. 84, let us know if that answers your question or what you were sharing with us. This is a good one. Michelle wants to know, how do we find that in our area?
I'd say when you're ready, it finds you.
Mm-hmm.
I know I hate that answer, but it's the truth. Unless you're willing to travel to one of the places, in this country or another country, it's really about when it finds you or when you take up the responsibility of growing your own.
Yeah. I know when I first started, Michelle, I mean, my brother was kind of connected with communities of people and started sharing with me, go with this. And then as I started talking to other people, then I joined another community that was open. So it's like, it was really interesting because people were placed where they needed to be placed when I was ready for it. And so if that is your intent, like if that's something that you want to do, just kind of put it out there and then spirit will lead you. As Nadia had said, divine timing, when the time is right, someone will be placed. Unless, like she said, you want to hop on a plane and go visit her up in Vancouver, Washington. Because you have people literally from all over the world, right, that fly to you.
We do. We get people from all over the world. It's really cool.
Wow. And how often do you do ceremonies?
We have them going most days of the week. Me personally, I only do them about once a week at this point because my focus is on building the community locally. So I do a lot of like evening events and weekend events and outreach to people in the area. And those events can be free or donation based only. And so right now I'm focusing on growing, but I have, as I said, 4 facilitators, I think, at this point, and everybody works 1 to 3 days a week.
Okay. J-Rock says, is one method of ingestion better than another? I know of teas and edibles. I would think teas would be the easiest way to hit the bloodstream, but is the experience impacted like cannabis?
First, I'd like to try not to address this like a science question about hitting the bloodstream, because it doesn't matter. I have some people where as soon as they walk through the door, they start crying because they can already feel the medicine energy. So it's about you. Like, what does your heart tell you? What do the plants tell you? Does it tell you it wants to be eaten whole? Does it want to come in a tea? Ask them, not me.
Good point. Henry says, can we hear more about Nadia following her vision into action? How did she hold the vision to build the church, and did she have challenges and doubts along the way? Leave it up to little girl to come with the good questions.
Big question. I know Henry loves this topic with me. Yeah, so I got the message in a meditation, as I said, when I was living in Florida. Spirit told me it was time to move and build a community. And my husband and I had already done the cross-country move trip before. We actually ended up homeless in Hawaii like 5 years earlier. And so the idea of moving across country again with no plan was absolutely horrifying. But we did it, and he supported me and took his job remotely so that I could follow this vision. And when we got here, I started a meetup. I started meeting people in Portland. We almost became homeless again after being here for about 3 months. We couldn't find an Airbnb that would accept us and our dogs and our kids, and we were in a hotel room. And I'll never forget, like, on the bathroom floor of this literal Fleabag motel room, just breaking down. And I was like, I can't do this. We don't have any money left. Like, we've spent it all on Airbnbs. We can't put a deposit down on a house at this point. And I just let it go. And I fucking cried on the bathroom floor of this nasty motel room. And I woke up the next morning and my husband's like, Nadia, I found a new house on Zillow. I'm going to go see it today. And the owner of the house said it had been on Zillow for 2 months, but it wasn't coming up in people's searches. And she needed to fill it immediately and didn't need a security deposit. She's also the dog catcher in Vancouver. And she was like, take your pets, it's fine. So it's been a long series of trust falls with this process, and letting go and surrendering and trusting the vision. And then, you know, even working with an attorney, I decided that I was going to go the full DEA route. An attorney presented to me, she traded me ceremonies and shamanic work to help me do my DEA petition, which I had previously been quoted over $100,000 to have done.
Oh my God, wow.
So we got that out to the DEA, and it's just been absolute magic ever since. So a lot of surrendering, a lot of like, oh shit moments. And then just like 2 months ago, we moved into our permanent space in a commercial facility that's like 6,000 square feet. And that's all in the span of 2 years.
That's incredible. So really, it was you allowing yourself to surrender and just trust in the divine.
Dude, it's rough. It's rough to trust something you can't see. And that right there is faith, you know?
Yes. Oh, wow. Great story. Thanks for that, Henry. Anna says, I understood the question to be more in general in the sense of our connection to spirit being intense enough to cause us humans to create what we dream and experience. Oh, that was that for that other one? I'm a little slow on the questions here, so I'm not sure which question Anna Banana was referring to.
Dream experience. Yeah, I mean, so the shamanic view of our reality is that this reality is actually fake. It's a dream. We live in a dream. And so everything in front of us is created. It's just an agreed upon creation. And I think that might be more in line with what you're saying.
Oh, Michelle's in text. Michelle, you were the one. I remember someone was asking me before about plant medicine, and I couldn't remember who it was and where. And I remember they were in Texas, so I think it was you, Michelle, before, because I didn't know of anyone in the Texas area. So, just
no, but Florida. There's a lot of plant medicine in Florida. Let me just tell you that.
So maybe a trip to Florida. What is this, Jay? I stand correct. I remember that I did the frog medicine once, but I did it again afterwards a few months later. Oh, no worries, Jay. Oh, so you have someone that wants to come visit. So yeah, Katie says, I want to come visit your church when I visit her later next year. So awesome. Hey, Sempris, hello. So what would you say, I know we had talked about like the shamanic work versus like kind of like clinical work and the difference between the two of those.
Whew, so many differences. So we don't come in with a sense of a diagnosis. We're not trying to fix anything. There is a rebalance that we're trying to do, and that's in like a more broad holistic sense, like very basic energetic sense. And so even clinical, really the clinical model is to take your diagnosis and to address the diagnosis. And that's not our goal. It's to address what we see, hold space for healing to happen naturally, because it has the ability to happen naturally. Our body, our soul, our energy wants to heal. It just needs the environment to do that in. So there's a lot more open mind that comes as a facilitator. We don't even review notes before the ceremony. Like, we don't even plan for a person in most cases until the day they get there. We come completely open and willing to hold space for whatever's needed. So I think that kind of offers a huge advantage rather than over kind of over preparing and saying, well, we're going to go in to tackle this depression or this one childhood event. Usually it's not the thing you think it is that needs to be worked on or addressed, you know. But I'd say one of the biggest things I've seen is that people, especially people who've gone for the clinical trials, I've worked with a few of those, they're not having long-term impact from their work with psilocybin. And I do believe that it's because it's not a holistic method. It's not looking at the big picture. It's very much, you know, administer the drug, let it fix the symptom, usually temporarily. The same thing that's happening with ketamine, where people have a short-term fix, if you will, and then they end up having the problem again. The other big thing, the other big difference is that as shamanic practitioners, and I won't say all of us because we all have different skill sets, is that I enter this space without taking anything. I do not need a psychedelic to go to where you're going, to accompany you there, to do a soul retrieval, to speak to the spirits, to speak to the plants. This is my natural state of being. I actually don't have to sit in ceremony with someone in order to do healing work on them. This is just what I've been called to do, to create as a church. And I'd say that's a really big one, because how many of these therapists or doctors sit in ceremony? How many of them take it with you? How deep are we getting if they haven't gone that deep themselves, you know?
Mm-hmm. It's so true. Michelle says, I get my medical cannabis underground. Texas doesn't allow it yet. And I happened to discuss mushrooms a few weeks ago to help.
Mm-hmm.
Simper says, I love this because I originally got interested in psilocybin for spiritual reasons and have recently been thinking about doing clinical trials, research for it, treating OCD. But like you mentioned, I have been suspicious it wouldn't have long-term benefits with just 2 or 3 days of dosing. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Simpress. So let's talk a little bit about dosage, because I know for someone that's first time, is it something like if they're like feeling on edge or they're nervous, do you have like a set amount that's given for everyone, or is it based on an individual basis? How does that work?
It's definitely individualized. There is no set amount. This is where it's important to speak to the plants, to follow your gut, your heart, and to sit with everybody's energy individually. So we have a range that we typically work in, and I would say that's 1.5 to 3.5, which honestly is not very big. And then we don't actually make the decision until we sit down with the person and feel them out and where they're at. And do we taper in? Do we taper out? You know, do we work with something else first? It's very customized, because I don't believe there is a standard dosage.
Okay. And is it like a group setting that you do, or is it one-on-one type of work?
So we do both. Most of the work is one-on-one. I find that people are able to dive really deeply when they have a one-on-one or a really tight container to feel safe and to go to the places they need to go. My personal skill set is in the group work. So having the ability to sit with a group of people and maintain connection to each of them, to keep their stuff separate from the person next to them, to allow them to share gifts and abilities and energies in a safe way. Is a totally different experience. It's a very community-based experience.
Okay. Good question. So is microdosing less than 1.5?
I would say, so when I work with a microdose with a person, it's actually usually 0.05. If you search the internet, you'll probably find 0.1 to 0.3. 1.5 is a full-blown dose for most people. In fact, I've had 10-hour ceremonies with 1 gram. So I would go much, much less than that.
Okay. Church makes me feel uneasy, if I may be honest. How did you come up with church in place of, say, temple or sanctuary? Yeah, no, this is a great question, Heather.
Totally. So we are actually Sacred Heart Medicine Sanctuary. Church is just
Sorry,
kind of,
that was me.
church is kind of a, you know, it's a common name that gets thrown around, but I did intentionally name it sanctuary.
Yeah. You know, there's this spiritual group that I belong to, and they use the term church because for nonprofit reasons.
Yeah.
But they specify that, it is not a church per se, and it's just the wording that's more acceptable, and that for people to kind of use whatever feels more comfortable with them. But it's just kind of there, like a placeholder, if
Yeah.
you will. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we are 501c3 as well, and so church is the common terminology.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was my fault, Heather. Yeah. Sacred Heart Sanctuary. So, um, where do you see yourself going? Where would you like to go with the sanctuary?
I have a couple routes that I want to go. I do want to help people connect to their ancestral lines because, as I said earlier, I feel like us as Westerners are really disconnected from our bloodlines, and that's where the magic is. So I want to help people do that, and that is done through shamanic work, through learning to journey. I want to work with kids because the next couple generations that are coming are magical as fuck. Like, let me just tell you, I'm sorry for the language, but really, these kids are having incredible abilities. They're already fully in their body. They're fully awakened, and they need some sort of schooling, and that is just not available. And I would love to educate children. And educate the parents.
You're going to open up your own Hogwarts?
Dude, I think I might. Like, I think that's part of what we're doing here. It's so important because the world is changing and we have to address that. And these poor kids are being put in these boxes, and yeah, they just need more support. So let me tell you my grand plan. I hope to have 5 locations. I don't know where they're going to be, but I want this to be widely accessible and available for anybody who feels called to it. And my 5th location, I want to fund completely with the other 4. And I want to work with people who have severe mental illness like schizophrenia, dissociative identity disorder, severe bipolar disorder. My passion is in those mental health disorders, and I do believe that they can be completely healed with shamanic practice and working with shaman.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. Yeah, Tracy says, I will say you are very professional, responsible, and very skilled with your experience and knowledge. Great work.
Thanks.
Yeah, that is fantastic. And you're so right. I mean, I think that, just seeing these kids and what they're capable and what they've been through, a lot of them. I just, my daughter is part of, as well as yours, part of that, the time of just, my daughter was born right after 9/11. And then from there, just from what we've experienced from that point to where we are now, it's unbelievable. Like, her childhood is so completely different than mine, but they are very much in tune with how they feel and what they're going through, and they express it. If you watch these TikToks, some of these kids of what they're expressing and what they're saying, I'm like, my God, I was like, not even thinking about any of this stuff at that age, like, I mean, they're so deep and it's so intense. They're intense, but in a good way. In a good way. But like you said, I think it's important for them to have that guidance and that direction, and to get any type of more information that will assist them. So I'm excited about that for you. Very cool. I had another question and it went completely out of my head. Guys, help me out. What other kind of questions do we have? Anna Banana says, that is a beautiful idea. Blessings to you.
I mean, if you were to get me in front of a psychiatrist, they would tell me that I was schizophrenic. They would say, what you see, you hear, the plants speak to you, like, come on. But when it's fostered and when you're provided with training and structure around it, it is so incredibly powerful. And I know I haven't even touched half of my abilities up until this point. Yeah, and I would just love to provide training to other people.
Yeah, no, I think that is fantastic. What else did I want? I'm trying to go back to that question that I cannot think of at this moment. Oh, it was something about oh gosh, I don't know. What else would you like to share with us about the sanctuary or the work that you do? I know Okay, here we go. We have a question here. 84. How does a person know if they have abilities they can share in this space?
It's definitely a calling. I can't explain it other than you just know, and you're like, ooh, there's something here. There's something I need to pursue. People are attracted to me because they're attracted to the mushrooms, the mushroom medicine, or whatever you want to call it. Every one of my facilitators has a specific skill set, and by working with the mushrooms in a sacred, like, ceremony setting, their skill set gets amplified. And yeah, it's really cool as new facilitators come on to see the new skill sets coming. You know, I have one who's a death doula, and so she works with the dead and crossing people over, which I know is going to turn into depossession and other things. Or like your brother, he's like a gatekeeper to the underworld, which is the ultimate subconscious. You know what I mean? It's just so cool. So I would say it's a calling. It's a calling that you have to answer and explore and, be open to.
Yeah. Thank you for that, 84. Yeah, anything else that you want to share with us before we start wrapping things out? Oh, here we go. Good one, Teresa. Contact information. I did put some information in the description there, but let me put in for the church. I'll put in the website. But what would someone do if they were interested in finding out more information from you, Nadia?
So we have a website. It's sacredheartmedicine.us. If you are interested in sitting in ceremony, there's an intake process that's basically a screening to make sure that it's a good fit for you. And then we have social media, which I don't love, but understand the necessity of it. So there's like an Instagram for Sacred Heart Medicine and a TikTok, which scares me, but I still use. And, just poke around. There's a blog on there. There's videos on there. See how it feels. Look at the FAQs for questions, and if it feels right, then sign up.
Is there a place? This is a good question. Where can people buy mushrooms? Is that a thing?
I'm sure it's a thing. There are plenty of people out there growing mushrooms. We do not sell our mushrooms. They are for sacred ceremony purposes. So we are not a dispensary of any kind. The best advice I can give, honestly, and I take no liability from this, is to grow your own or learn to forage with someone. In fact, I would say the foraging is the better bet because they grow everywhere.
Okay, that's that. And Heather wants to know, do you use crystal energy medicine?
So I do work with some crystals. I wait until a crystal calls me. So somebody will come forward, similar to like when a plant is ready to work with me. They come forward and they say, I want to work with you. Let me show you what I can do in ceremony. And they show me how to work with it and like what they can provide in the ceremony space. So I don't just have like a pile of crystals. I wait until, one of them says, hey, like, here I am, I can help you.
Awesome. All right. So any other last words you would like to share with us? I'm so excited that you came on today to share this information, because I know everyone hears me talk about it, but love to have someone that's like really who does the work. That's the facilitator, is awesome. So anything else that you want to share with us?
I'd just say that if you are interested in working with plant medicine, obviously it doesn't have to be with me, but whoever it is with, make sure you feel good about them. Make sure your heart and your gut say, this is okay, this is safe, because it's not practiced safely everywhere. And so follow that compass.
Yeah, I love that idea, that suggestion. And I think that is really important because, guys, as this is becoming more mainstream, that you're going to find so many people out there doing medicines and everything else, but you want to make sure that that individual, that their heart is in it, that they are truly aligned with the purpose, the goal of making this a spiritual experience and making it sacred, that is just not something to have a good time with. And yeah, that you feel comfortable with that person, like you mentioned, Nadia. I think that's really important. So, oh, baby bro, he says, "Cool seeing you two together."
Thank you.
Well, I'm definitely coming up to visit one day, so I will be up there to experience the sanctuary. I'm excited about that. I would love to come up and visit, and I thank you so much for being here today.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah. And to all of you, thank you so much. Thank you for being interactive with all your great questions. This has been informative for everybody. So I really do appreciate it. Yeah, I agree, Tracy. Just by the way, she says, Nadia, just by the way you answered the questions, you are a pretty solid place to land. Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. So I will be on, guys, this Friday morning at 8:30 a.m. Pacific time for Oracle readings, messages from Spirit for the collective. So be sure to hang out with me then this Friday morning. And good night to you all. Be safe. Nadia, thank you again.
Thank
And
you.
we'll see you all later.